Welcome back to OPC Season 2. I'm AVRL. Joined with me this evening is Pixie as we head into the final match of the evening between Libalent Supreme and Blank Esports.
We said at the beginning of the night after Mega were able to take out AHQ, look, maybe this is going to be the night of upsets. Look, Flash Wolves 3-0'd Machi. It's not going to be the night of upsets, but we could still see another one. We could still see Libalent take out Blank. Look, it's absolutely not out of the possibility, right? And that would be a massive spoiler for Blank, who by virtue of Mega beating AHQ are currently in 4th place and desperately want to hold on to it.
Exactly. It would not want to undo Mega's hard work. They put you in this amazing spot where suddenly you're back into the top 4. Suddenly AHQ got knocked down a peg. You want to make sure you do Mega justice if nothing else. We're going to get some words from both sides before we get into this.
今日は新しく入ったリオンが毎回6人倒すので勝てると思います。
哦，他的意思是说，他今天呢，他们会把对手6个人全部打倒，他们今天一定要拿下胜利。They say
our goal
will individual. Oh, they will win this match.
Oh, there you go. Said it better than I could.
I'm really looking for a fun match today and wish them best of luck in the match.
Okay, 好的，看起来我们 Blank 也非常期待今
So
天
there
的
it
比赛
is.
那在比赛之前呢，
That prophecy
双方
that was foretold. Libalent Supreme defeating all of Blank, all 6 of them.
All of them.
And then, you know, just keep that list going too, because I got some support staff that you might as well defeat while you're at it. Because
Yeah,
why stop only
yeah,
the players?
yeah.
I wouldn't, so don't you do that either.
Pull them up on stage like, you know what, sub in, I want to take you down as well, right? That was surprisingly wholesome out of Doctor though. He's just like, good luck, have fun everyone. Like, first rule of Overwatch is to have fun and be yourself. I really appreciate that. I feel like that's kind of set a nice friendly tone for this matchup where now 6 players are going to go beat the crap out of 6 other players in a virtual environment.
In a virtual environment.
Yeah, they're not going to do it for real.
Yeah.
That would be Fight
And
Club.
then afterwards they shake each other's hands because they're in real life they're okay.
What if that was like first rule of Fight Club is to have fun and be yourself?
I mean,
but that's the problem, right?
They do.
It's like,
They do
yeah, that's
anyway.
the thing. The problem is for the main character, having fun and being yourself is actually being 2 of yourself.
Okay, well let's move on ahead and take a look at the teams now. Get to know who we are working with tonight for both sides. For Libalent Supreme, I want to talk about these guys first, and here they go. I guess the main talking point here is kind of like Mega, they've had some changes to the roster mid-season, not just in terms of the players, but in terms of the roles as well. If you remember, Ryan came in here in, I believe it was week 4, so only last week, so he's had sort of a little bit of extra time now to work with the team. You've had a role swap from Pepper moving into Hotare's empty spot after Hotare going back to Japan, so now Libalent Supreme still just trying to find their feet a bit.
And it's unfortunate that they're trying to find their feet a bit because we're starting to have this unfortunate parallel being drawn of new team, same Japan. Look, this is a team that has already looked so much better than either of the former 2 Japanese teams in OPC Season 1. But unfortunately, because the overall standard of play has gone up along with a better Japanese team entering the tournament, they're still sitting in last place. On the flip side of that, though, is of course going to be Blank Esports with a 2nd place finish in Season 1, have had some change-ups of their own, bringing in Huru and Hus both, replacing out Atar and Kiki. And they've taken quite a bit of time to really gel together. In fact, they've arguably taken the longest of any of these teams that has made substitutions from the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Libalent have made a substitution halfway through, but Blank have had this roster from the start now, and it's only just feeling like they're starting to come into their own, which is a good thing, mind you, given that they will be able to take that into playoffs if they make it there. You know, it's better late than never, and they are currently in 4th place. If they can really just get that last little bit of cleanliness in place, then they can absolutely close out this win, help secure that spot for 4th place, heck, maybe even make a run for 3rd.
And of course, Libalent Supreme still sitting at the bottom of the table at 0-11, so the opportunities for this Japanese squad to make their mark on OPC Season 2 is running out of time. They just don't have enough matches left after this. They still have Mega and they still have Machi. But when you look at a team like Mega who nearly beat Blank last night, who just beat AHQ now, you start to consider it's not going to be against Mega that Libalent Supreme get their win. Maybe against Machi, but Machi are nothing to sleep on either. They just gave Flash Wolves a decent run for their money despite not taking a map. So Libalent Supreme, where's it going to come from? Does it come from Blank today?
I mean, geez, that would be spicy. Look, even picking up map wins here would be huge for Libalent, and actually would be quite alarming for Blank as well, because if you want to talk about this idea of Blank holding on to that 4th place spot, making it into playoffs, if you drop maps to Libalent before you go into playoffs, you've got to question your ability to make it very far in playoffs themselves. I also did mention one other thing, which could end up being a really big factor for this team, and indeed for AHQ and Hong Kong Attitude as well. Those 3 teams are all in striking distance of a playoff spot and are all possibly able to get that 3rd place seed as well, which would have them coming up against Flash Wolves instead of Ardian. And you have to be honest in saying that gives you a slightly better chance of making it to the grand finals.
Gumbo, of course, back with his cap on, so not going to
hide the big brain.
Not unleashing his true power.
But I tell you what, Huwu's taken off the Diva jacket to unleash his swollenness.
He got that jacket at the World Cup, actually. I remember the exact moment he bought it. So
and it looks super cute, XD.
In theme, since you're against the Japanese team, very kawaii.
Very kawaii indeed.
Yeah, very kawaii.
Speaking of kawaii, last man along the line is I Eat You Up, the man who does not wear his headset over the top of his head because it would mess up his hair.
Imagine if Gumba gave his hat over to Ida. That would be
disaster.
That would be the day.
That'd be disaster.
It's
like
you
unleash the brain,
but you would suppress
but
his.
Exactly. It's like it's a trade-off, right? Right. You unleash the brain, but you suppress the flare.
Actually, there's another theory there. That's where the intelligent decisions come from. So you just give it to another player, like have my.
That hat is the intelligent.
Have my intelligent decision.
That makes so much sense. It's the thinking cap. Oh my God, we found the thinking cap. We found it. I've always wondered, right? So it's kind of like
whispers decisions into his ears.
Yeah, it's like a mystical item, like the Holy Grail. Like your teachers from a very young age tell all the little kids about the thinking cap that they must put on to achieve their destiny. And Blank have found it. Maybe they'll get to achieve their destiny. It's going to be Libalent's pick for control, as they do have the home side. They're going to be taking it to Lijiang Tower.
All right. Well, this is going to be where Libalent Supreme have been to the most times, I'd say, in terms of control here. I
feel like everyone has, but Libalent slightly more so. I don't
especially.
I'm trying to remember if Libalent have actually been to any other control map, but
a couple
just
times.
Just to recap real quick, of course, with that home side, they do get the control pick, which is Lijiang Tower. We'll also get the assault and second hybrid picks. That's picks 1, 3, and 5. Blank, on the other hand, get picks 2 and 4. And just by the way, we do have to bring this up, of course, because Libalent have that home side pick for Assault, which is Blank's traditionally weakest map mode. You've got to say, if Libalent are going to pick up a map win against Blank, it's most likely going to be there. Because that is potentially the case, Blank really can't afford to drop any other maps before that as well. And ideally don't want to drop Assault at all either, by the way.
We have to go back to when we last saw Libalent Supreme, which was on the Friday only 2 nights ago against Hong Kong Attitude. Now, that was a difficult run for Libalent Supreme. Hong Kong Attitude had control of that match from start to finish. And one of the issues there that was pointed out from that match was the fact that Ryan was shut down a number of times, especially quite early on in fights, that really cost Libalent Supreme. And just an inability from Libalent Supreme to really find openings and find options against Hong Kong Attitude. And I understand it is against Hong Kong Attitude, and now you are also against Blank, but you got to go back to it. Like, when and where does it finally happen for Libalent Supreme?
You know what this is like? This is a pause, and this is like when you're on a roller coaster.
And it breaks.
And it like stops just before the drop, and it breaks down. I actually had that happen to me once. I'm not even joking. I was either at... Oh, this is going to make me sound like way more wealthy than I am. I was either at Disney World or Universal Studios, and I think it was Universal Studios.
Way more wealthy.
And I was on Thunder Mountain Railway, or maybe Railroad. Look it up. It is a real ride, right? And we were on the initial rise. It's like we've come out of the station, we've had like the little dip down, and then it's like on the initial rise, and then it breaks down. But even worse, that ride has a timed waterfall on it.
Oh, God.
As you're going up there, and you're like, oh no, we're gonna get wet, but it's timed, so it shuts off, right? And then the train goes past, and then it starts running again. unless the train breaks down immediately underneath the waterfall, which is exactly where I happened to be sat. We had one raincoat in our entire family that day, and it was given to my older sister. So I already know who the favorite child is, and I sat there getting absolutely soaking wet on Thunder Mountain Railroad, and they sat us there for an hour with this waterfall intermittently going on and off. And they just kept coming up saying, yeah, we're working on it, just stay right there. We can't let you off the ride just yet, we're working on it, we should have it underway. And then after an hour, they were finally like, yeah, we're probably not going to get this running, you can come off now. Oh, thanks, thank you for letting me graciously off this ride. And by that point in the day, we had to go home. I had a rough childhood.
Yeah.
And, you know, all my adventures to Universal Studios, I had it hard.
I guess where I benefit is I'm an only child, but I don't get to go to the theme park. So
yes, that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off.
That's where that's the problem.
Exactly. Like you get to be the favorite child, but you don't actually get any of the benefits of being the favorite child.
Right? Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, exactly. And like there were some other pretty great rides. Actually, we did actually go back the next day, and the ride was working again, so we were able to get on. We had like the little fast pass thing as well.
I feel like you wouldn't go back to that same ride again the second time.
Like we took a risk. But you know what? It paid off. It was a lot of fun.
Oh man!
If it broke down again, I would have.
How stupid would you have
Yeah,
felt?
yeah, and I would have also made a point to like never buy a lottery ticket ever, right? Like there was no winning for me at that point. That was that was a very interesting experience. It was actually when we moved here to New Zealand. We went through quite a lot of the US, and man, do I have a lot of stories from there. Like I had a lot of very interesting. I was only like 7 years old, but like
You've seen some stuff at
I've seen some stuff. I saw a Texan man, just by the way, the pause is looking to be Thunder Mountain Railway length at this point. We were in like I don't know, a saloon, I suppose. I was gonna say pub because I'm English, but like you know, some of you can just get like some food and drink, and we were there to have like a pub lunch, even though this is, you know, America. And these two dudes came in, and they just looked like bona fide cowboys with like huge Stetsons and massive belt buckles. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Just as we were leaving, like some commotion is going on in the far end of this room, and I look over, and as I look over, I hear one of them stand up, and he grabs his belt buckle and he goes, you know what, that's it. We're gonna beat you up Texas style. And that was amazing. Like, there is a style. Texas has a style of beating people up. I didn't see that in any other US state. Like, all I could imagine after that was like, I'm gonna beat you up Vermont style. Put on the sweater vest, it's fisticuffs. Like, didn't happen. Texas, they have their own way of beating people up, and that really impressed 7-year-old me. Your hair looks really great, by the way.
I'm not impressed. This is not comfortable at all. By the way, it's really not comfortable whatsoever.
Well, look, it may not be the most comfortable thing, but if you want to preserve your stylish do, this is what you got to do. This is the hardship that I Eat You Up is facing every single time he plays Overwatch. Mm-hmm. No wonder they're struggling to make playoffs. Mm-hmm. Look at how uncomfortable he is at all times. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I am receiving a message.
This is comms down with 3291.
Say?
Just kind of feel that, like, get down, Mr. President. Can you just imagine if that's actually how their comms have to work? Like, he's just struggling to hear the whole time.
This is Eat Up Actual confirming sighting of Zenyatta in the back line. Confirm. That's about it.
You've got, like, Gunber, he has it on, like, just over top of his hat, which is kind of like the ultimate hair shield if you think about it. Like, you can't mess up your hair if your hair's already messed up. I feel like this is why Gunber is able to make intelligent decisions, because it's comfortable, the communication is clear, it's all there for him.
Oh boy. Well, the only thing we're missing here from Blank is the rapid handshaking from Huss and RQT.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that.
That's the one play they like to make. It's the Huss RQT combo.
Tends to come after like the second game, just generally speaking. But yeah, they do tend to get reacquainted about halfway through the night, which I think is quite a polite thing of them to do. Like, honestly, they were just, you know, both nice young men raised very well.
Never been on the Yeezers tour, Celine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also
I can't really relate to the Yeezers tour.
Yeah, it's like I do like me the odd bit of Kanye West. You know, but I mean, I never went on the Yeezus tour either. Seems like a nice guy. Seems like a genuine enough dude, but you know, just not my cup of tea. Never actually been to a rap concert. I've always wondered what it's like. Like, what do people do there? Because I go to rock concerts predominantly, and like, you know, you get in the mosh pit, like you go hard, like it's a lot of fun, right? What do people do at rap concerts? You're just like, do you like rap along, or do you like, or do you go in time with the hype guy? You're just like, yeah, what up? Like, is that?
That's the most.
like instead of having a hype guy, they just get the audience to be the hype guy. Like, you know, when you're at a show and they like sing the first 2 words and they hold out the microphone for the audience to sing along. Like, what if rappers just do that, but like they get the audience to be the hype guy? That would be pretty hype. That would be awesome. I should go to a rap show.
Like,
I should have gone to the Yeezus tour.
I can't even confirm that for you. I don't even know.
What kind of shows did you do?
Well, Gumba's been on the Overwatch tour.
Yes, Thunder Mountain Railway is working again.
But you're soaked, because I got the rain jacket.
Yeah, you got the rain. You're the favorite child, as it turns out. But we are going to be able to get into the map. Pause, resolved, issues all sorted, and we are going to be underway. And I've always wondered what kind of product it is that billboard is selling. It looks like a kind of milk.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's milk.
Oh, there's a pause. Here we go. Alrighty. Gives us plenty of time. Okay, if it's not milk, what could it be? Like, maybe it's like a salt shaker. Because that would make sense. Shaker. It's like, because like, get your salt here, you know, lose the map and get your salt here. Like, that would make sense. I don't know. It works out. Could be a sold out. I don't know.
I don't know.
What gets
there's like interesting. There's a lot of milk type of drinks.
There's a lot going on in that.
There's a lot of milk drinks in Asian countries. Like, you go to like Korea and China, Japan, and kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. You don't really get that in most Western countries. There's just not like milk drinks. It's just milk.
I mean, there is still milk. I want to make that clear. We do drink,
there's milk,
and we do drink a lot of milk.
Like, well, there's a lot of cows in New Zealand, but no milk.
There's just no milk. Sorry, no milk. Yeah, it's like how we don't.
Misleading.
Like, you know how we don't have gardens. Like, what if we also didn't have milk? Like, what if that was the case? Like, the government's like, no milk for anyone. We got to sell it all. We got to keep the economy afloat. No milk. That's it. No more. Sorry, got to have water with your cereal. I don't know. That would be disgusting. I've always liked the idea, by the way, of a soy vanilla latte, because if you think about it, it's a kind of 3-bean soup.
Like, just some bean on bean on bean.
Right? I realized a few weeks ago, I was making a soy coffee, and I realized that I was putting bean water into bean water, and I was like, this is a new drink. And I wondered, like, what happens if I put vanilla in this as well? Vanilla beans. Wow, I mean, it was amazing. Just on the topic of milk substitutes. Honestly,
oh man, I'm getting up over here.
Gordon Ramsay, you can have that one for free. It's my new 3-bean soup recipe. In any case, this is at last going to be the pause resolved, it seems. This time, hopefully for good, as we do come out the gates on Lijiang Tower. Going to be hitting up night markets first.
It's going to be Husback onto the Genji as well, Pepper onto the Soldier. This is what we like to see out of both of these two teams. Very traditional. Who's going to come out first?
Well, the answer is, as it turns out, Chill and Huss. They do lose Eat You Up in the process, but have the ground control of this fight. Now going to be pressuring out Deriton and Pepper both. That should be Blank getting the cap as it opens up. Pepper getting another one on the back end, though. They're going to try and go aggressive here.
Really good damage
from Pepper. That's a really good pick.
He's managed to soften up the rest of the Blank targets, as well as collect 2 kills. So actually, as the cap opens, you're going to give this one over to Libalent Supreme.
You unfortunately do, and because Gunba was dead, Trill couldn't quite hold that position. Eat You Up did rejoin the fray, and that was potentially going to be the saving grace, but that was before Gunba and Trill both died. So actually, Libalent, despite having a rough start, were able to strike back and get the cap.
Just forgot about Pepper, and that's the kind of issue here. You got a couple.
You bought the salt, you forgot the pepper.
Oh my god.
Oh man, this has been a blast so far. Pulse bomb out from Ryan does damage Huwu, but doesn't quite take him down to follow up, not just there. So Blank now with a little bit of a window.
You are expecting Blank to get their ultimates first, so because Eat Up and Huss have done a decent amount of damage here. Already Pulse Bomb coming through, not going to catch anything.
They get the catch on Darrington, who fails to use the Primal Rage as well. They need to get the good pressure onto Pepper now. He's forced back as that Transcendence runs out, but he's going to be able to wheel around and take the fight now from the other side. This is Huss, though, going aggressive. Needs to get a lot done with this Dragon Blade. They do have a Transcendence to last out as well. Gets Jasper before he can get back in the mech, and you're pleased enough with that. They're still kind of running even here, and Transcendence off the table. Libalent still getting kills off the back end of this one, eating you up, and Trill need to get a lot of work done here. Huwu, just goes down just shy of that self-destruct. Yeah, Trill altered, and unfortunately, Libalent is still in control of this fight.
That's the thing, right? Because Trill altered into a scenario where you would only use the Primal Rage if you had the cap itself, or if you're threatening to actually cap it over. Because neither of those conditions were met, Trill just dies with 1,000 HP, feeds a bunch of ultimate onto Libalent Supreme, who are now vastly ahead.
Except for the fact that Blank got the cap, and I'll be honest, Libalent did not need to be abandoning that position. They were trying to kite Eat You Up to draw him forward, but here's going to be the instant counterattack out of them. Eat You Up, though, does take down Darrington. Pepper needs to get a lot done now with this tactical visor, and actually there's no targets for him. Good placement on the self-destruct by Who would force them onto the point. They do still need to answer this still here, Blank. They need to get some damage onto these members. Pepper actually has basically gone uncontested this whole game long.
Now, this is a real shame for Libalent Supreme, because this would have been an extra 30% in their progress meter right now. They would be at nearly overtime, forcing Blank into a very difficult scenario to play in. But because they hopped off, because they got a little bit too scared to eat you up, they let Blank cap it over. And now, actually, Blank, they got given a little bit of a chance here. Huss onto the Soldier as well. It's going to challenge Pepper directly.
And that could be exactly what they need. Did actually get a little bit done with the Genji, but in truth, not quite enough. That's good damage to force the Transcendence, but Libalent are happy to use it then anyway. Need to convert some kills off it. The Sound Barrier does make it a little bit hard, but they're getting the good damage onto who won't have a self-destruct to preserve the mech, whereas Jasper will, which he now uses to zone out these members. Oh, Eat You Up! Goes down to Ryan, but he does get Jasper, and that's the catch on Pepper that they've been needed, but still not quite getting the leg up in this fight here, Blake. Huss needs to do a lot of work here, and he's able to turn tail and helix out Ryan. And now with the Transcendence from Gunbird available if they need it, they should actually be able to secure this fight from here.
This is another problem for Libalent Supreme, because they're going toe-to-toe with Blank. Usually that would be good, but they're going toe-to-toe in a scenario where they don't have the camp itself. Now Blank's overtaken their own progress, and Blank are threatening to take this already into the 90% mark with a lot of ultimates and tail as well.
Yeah, and they didn't have a lot of ultimates in that last fight, but still got through it. So now they do have ultimates. Transcendence coming out of Gunbird as well to keep them alive, and the Sound Barrier from Keisuke isn't quite going to keep them safe as they lose the tankiness of the squad. The backline now getting picked off, and is this going to be a no casualty fight to close it out for Blank? Yes, it is. Gong sounds. That's the cap. 1-0 up.
Nice turnaround from Blank. A little bit of an iffy start, and we have known Blank to have difficult openings in a lot of those initial fights. While they did manage to pick up a first 2 kill, Pepper came in such a big way. Not only did he pick up 2 for himself, but he softened up targets enough that his tanks like Darrington could get the remainder. I mean, really flush Blank out, get that first cap him, get to 65%, but then it all turned around and turned wrong very quickly for Libalent Supreme, and they never managed to quite get that cap back in. But you have to imagine, if they just didn't allow the cap to go over in the first place, that could have been a 1-0.
Absolutely. The thing is, right, even with this role swap, Pepper is still performing very consistently. Just, you know, an experienced enough player to pull that off. Pepper here is just a really seasoned player.
The thing is for Libalent Supreme is they have the kind of compositions that you see out of Flash Wolves. In fact, very similar players as well. Pepper and Zonda have similar player pools, rather hero pools. So does Ryan and Bacon Track. It's just coming down to the execution. That's where it's got to count.
Yeah, speaking of execution, Trill getting very pressured out as Huss didn't quite close out those kills. They just didn't get enough damage at the right time, and now losing Huss as well. So once again, the opening fight already going the way of Libalent. Eat You Up going to work overtime to try and keep his team in it, but they're just losing too many members now. RQT down. They're going to have to take that one on the chin as Libalent again going to start off getting the point.
And this time clean it as well. Last time you had a situation where Blank picked up 2 kills, had some return trades. This time it was only Libalent Supreme, and they look good while doing it. Blank Esports, they don't have the buffer that they had before. They don't have the extra ultimate charge. They're coming in a lot further behind.
That's the thing, for all the preservation of his hairdo, Eat You Up just does not look good doing it.
Yep.
Poor guy.
It's a tough place to be.
Poor guy. I bet he spends a lot of time on his hair, and we're just really mean about it. That's going to be the 1-for-1, though, counterparts as well. And Haas going over the edge to the boot from KCK. That is very unfortunate for themselves. And Blank know that they can't really keep this fight alive, unfortunately.
This is the kind of lead that you want to have as Libalent Supreme. You want to make at least that 65% mark that you had before, but even more. Force Blank into an overtime, and suddenly they're going to play desperate. They're going to get desperate and make a lot of mistakes. So for Libalent Supreme, Ultimate's going to come up a lot earlier than Blank. You got to get a lot of progress out of this Pepper with the tactical visor before Blank Esports have any response.
And this is already looking good for Libalent. And in fact, last time when the cap went over to Blank, it was kind of Libalent mispositioning. Blank held it from that point on, sure. You would assume that they would have been able to cap it later had they not got it when they did, but it's also not a reliable way to get the cap out. Now, Blank are just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way with ults finally starting to come up.
The slow approach actually kind of works for Blank because they're finally getting those ultimates, but now they need to answer to this tactical visor.
They've got it in the form of the Primal Rage from Trill, but now he's able to just stay in the fight and put the pressure back on. Pepper didn't actually go down, and now Blank are starting to commit a lot of ultimates just into the middle of nowhere. KSUK, the first casualty of the fight now at long last. It's 8 up is pressured well out, but Haas hasn't got anything off this Dragon Blade. They're still struggling to close out these kills here as they lose Trill here. Now Darrington is the trade kill for them, but Blank still not in an ideal position this fight. Good catch onto Ryan though, and EduUp has got the health back to rejoin the fight. They get Jasper out of the picture, and even though Pepper survived that one, it is going to be the point grab for Blank, but not before Libalent have it up to 99.
And that's a really good place for Libalent Supreme to be in. The only mistake they really made that cost them this fight was the fact that they failed to engage before Blank got their ultimates. They should be able to identify we're in the lead now. If we wait any longer, suddenly that lead drops. Blank Esports are going to raise up their power level, and for Libalent Supreme, your team doesn't get better once you reach the ultimate stage, so you got to go when you have the opportunity.
And they're going to have some defensive ultimates, but there should be that tactical visor and pulse bomb both before the sound barrier and transcendence is available for Blank, so that has to be the tool that Libalent uses. Blank, though, getting aggressive. They know that that's the case. They're looking for an early pick, getting the pressure. Haven't quite converted on Selene, and he gets out as Haas is too deep. Trading 1-for-1, but Trill hard pressured out, and Echop has to get a lot of work done. Pulse Bomb doesn't quite do it, but they do get the D-Mech at least. Gunbit committing the Transcendence to keep them safe in the fight as they seek to close it out. Little dicey for Blank, but they do keep it down pat.
Overall, though, Libalent Supreme, they managed to save a bunch of ultimates. Blank Esports as well in a similar situation, but because they've won that fight and they got the damage and the kills in, they're going to collect their ultimates just a little bit quicker. Can Blank now do what Libalent Supreme couldn't do and make sure they get the correct engagement timing when Libalent Supreme are still in this charging phase?
Exactly, and ideally want to be able to draw some ultimates out of them as well in what would be an inopportune time for Libalent and see how they execute.
So Libalent Supreme now got a little bit of short on time. They have maybe 1.5 pushes to get this done now, and Huss look for the open Dragon Blade solo. The sound barrier does save him.
Yeah, it does save him, but he jumped away from the fight. So now Trill having to use this Primal Rage. Good self-destruct placement from Huru to buy space, but they need to convert off it. Libalent have committed those ultimates. They haven't got much for it yet. Huss going 1-for-1. No Dragon Blade available, and now Blank haven't got anything to use, but neither do Libalent, as the D-Mech from Jasper might just be what turns the tide in favor of Blank here, but they're still just getting a little bit forced off, and actually Libalent set up on the point. Blank, they need to take this to the point because Libalent are about to cap if they're not careful, and EduUp, unfortunately, the only one here for it. Huss needs to get in and come up big. Instant grab onto Selene is good, and he closes out on Pepper. Needs a little bit more. There aren't many targets for him to get, to be honest, though, but at now 99 themselves, Blank re-engaging on the fight. A little bit low, not quite secure just yet. Oh, self-destruct catches Huss, and the cap over to Libalent, now Blank on the back foot.
This is an all-in play from Blank Esports because they spent everything. Now all they have is a pulse bomb from
stick on Gunbird.
But Ryan's doing the job first, and Libalent Supreme are making sure this is even.
Huru does get back in the mech though, and Trill comes up big at the very end there. Just barely kept alive in that, and the remake from Huru was a massive saving grace. And off the back of that, it looks like Blank just maybe will stabilize, get the 99 back on their side of the
Selene's here.
Selene has come back in on the Sombra, but not long for this world, just barely as KSUK mad dash dive for the point Blank. That was not at all comfortable, but they do secure Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, they're going to be quite relieved with that win right at the end there. 99-99 in a situation where it could have gone to either side. And for Libalent Supreme, this is the kind of positioning that they wanted for Night Market, but they never really got there because it felt like every time Libalent Supreme had a lead, they didn't have a way to close out the game. The early game looked solid because of consistently winning the initial engagements. It's in that middle area and towards the end of the game that they start to really drop off the radar.
That was a really tough one as well, because I'll go back to Night Market to mention, of course, Blank got the cap in what was a bit of a misposition from Libalent, and I don't think they were actually expecting to get it then. So you could have easily seen that going to a 99-99 as well, had Libalent held on to that cap for as long as they possibly could have. Even so, maybe Blank probably would have still closed that out. So with that, they do, of course, pick up, Lijiang Tower going to open up the series 1-0.
A nice 2-0 on Lijiang as well to do it. So that's the important thing there for Blank. They make sure that they don't drop anything in the middle. They are challenged somewhat. So what it does open now is if you go back to the Machi Flash Wolves matchup, look, Machi were not favored there, but Machi had teeth and Libalent do as well. Let's take a look at exactly what they did.
And this was, of course, on Night Market. This was just after Blank had kind of got that cap through, had held it crucially. And this was where the turnaround really started to begin. You notice that they don't have any ultimates anymore after RQT had committed the sound barrier. And this was a really protracted one. And it was just this constant situation of going 1 for 1 and then 1 for 1 and 1 for 1. But at no point did Libalent quite actually get the upper hand. And it was just the few members that stayed in the fight for Blank were able to keep it tidy for them, and the respawners that came in had more of an impact than the respawners from Libalent because they were able to come into the fight and regroup, whereas Libalent were generally coming into the fight a little bit more scattered.
You kind of mentioned it right. They're going toe for toe, they're going player for player, and they're able to get these even trades, but unfortunately if you don't have the cap, the even trades don't mean anything, and they lost the cap in the middle there. Something is going wrong for Libalent Supreme where good early game, shaky middle game, and then in the end game, they just can't close out the match no matter how far ahead they are. 99-0 was what they had on Gardens, and that's still not enough of a lead. Unfortunately, you can't get more of a lead than that. If you can't win 99-0, I don't know what you can win with.
At least Blank are getting these situations where they're out-fragging Libalent, because had it not been for that at a couple of crucial junctures on both of those maps, then this could have been a very different series. But you've got to say, Blank are ending up in those situations where you feel maybe they shouldn't be. And this is now as it starts to approach the end. This ended up being a massively protracted fight.
We got to look for the situation here for Huss to really get this Dragon Blade usage out. If I'm not mistaken, he does go down the middle here, so there he goes down to Selene before it can really come out. This is a difficult situation for Blank because they have to sort of hold on here while waiting for respawners, while waiting for ultimates. They went all in on this push. They do maintain the cap presence, and in big part due to the fact that Trill, Eat You Up, and the rest of the team are able to stay alive, are able to keep the pressure on, but at no point did Libalent Supreme not get counter trades, and this is what's really important because Libalent Supreme are always able to get kills no matter how bad it looks.
And the crucial thing at the very end there, the one kill that Huss did get with the Dragon Blade was Pepper. While Ryan was kind of zoned out of the fight, he immediately goes down, which was unfortunate, but it wasn't the end of the world for them. And now you end up in this situation. Ryan's only just rejoined, there's only so much he can get done, and actually, once again, Libalent in this situation are scattered, whereas Blank actually have some good positioning, right? They're still a little bit more together, they're still working more as a unit, whereas Libalent's players are a little bit more isolated, kind of just playing on an individual basis. That is where Blank are able to overcome Libalent. But the thing is, Libalent are in that situation because, unfortunately for them, they're not a super clean, super disciplined team in that regard. That's not a reliable victory condition for Blank, right? You can't rely on the other team just not being as clean as you in those more chaotic situations. You want to actually be able to execute cleanly, not rely on chaos, because there's other teams in this tournament that can totally overpower you in those chaotic situations. Like, I don't know, there's one I can think of called Ardiant.
There's a few others in there as well.
A few, exactly. And you know what? They're all in playoffs as well. So that's exactly what Blank could be coming up against in their semi.
And again, you have to go back to the comparison here between Flash Wolves and Machi in the previous match because in many regards, it feels like the same thing. You have one favorite team, you have one underdog team, but actually the underdog team at any point could threaten to upset the favored team. You have a situation where all it takes is for Libalent Supreme to go a little bit more than toe-to-toe, get a couple extra kills instead of just going 1 for 1. If they get a 2 for 1, suddenly the tables turn quite quickly and Libalent Supreme get themselves a win. Imagine a scenario where at 99-0, that's actually a 100-0 for Libalent Supreme. We would be in a different position altogether, and that's a scary thought for Blank.
Absolutely is, but Blank now have kind of weathered that first storm. Now they get to go to their own map pick, going to be taking us to Hollywood. And if all goes well, we'll be taking it to match point as well. This is their opportunity to do that. One last, I suppose, final thought about Lijiang there is, we've also got to be honest in saying, control, oh, hold on, is this going to be the handshake?
Oh, no, it was a quick one. It was a quick one.
Was it? Was it though? It was behind the screen. I feel like maybe
only the real Blank know what happened.
Yeah, we'll never know. It's a myth. But look, Control is always considered to be Blank's strongest game mode. Hybrid is good for them. It's decent enough. But Assault is their weakest game mode, and you've got to start to think, Libalent now with that close performance on Lijiang Tower, really threatening to take Assault off Blank when it comes to that. So Blank want to pick up this map so that if they do lose Assault, they're at least not going to be taken to match point by Libalent.
And you saw in the scenario where actually, if you think back to the last time we saw Blank against Mega, that was a best of 5 going all the way to 5 maps where Mega threatened to get a reverse sweep. So Blank were in a commanding position 2-0. In match point, and then the underdog team, quote unquote, was able to pull something out. It's not impossible that we end up there again, and it does start at Assault. That is where things start to turn around against Blank.
Generally speaking, yes, but first, Hollywood. That's got to be what Libalent would get through if they take it to match point on Assault. And by the way, there is no guarantee they win Assault as well. This is more just conjectural, based off Blank's own performance on that map. But actually, last time these teams met, Blank did also win Assault as well. And I believe, actually, they went 2 for 1 on the Control as well. So technically, so far, a stronger performance from Blank, but if they're wanting to look good coming into playoffs, you would hope that they're having even more commanding victories than this.
They're gonna need to, and it comes back to, you know, in sort of the pre-match when Coach Ray Fletchel said, for their team, they needed a stable performance where they look good, they look comfortable, and they win comfortably. The same is true for Blank now against Libalent Supreme. Any sort of hiccups here, any sort of moments where, you know, Blank kind of fall apart, does not speak well to their ability to do well in playoffs moving forward.
Yeah, actually...
And even, before I even get there, their playoffs position isn't even fully determined just yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, actually, yeah, wanting to have clean play for playoffs is an important factor for these guys. But yeah, you're completely right. They actually want to have clean play so they're going to look good before they come up against AHQ, because that's likely to be the decider of who takes that 4th place spot. And there is also that match against Hong Kong Attitude that they would quite like to win to take 3rd place if they can so help it. But that is all a long way down the road still. And this right here, right now, is Libalent on attack on Hollywood.
Libalent's going sticking to the tried so far. Not bringing too true just yet. Nice counter offense from Blank to be able to charge straight on the high ground and challenge Libalent Supreme for that positioning.
Now, if you do recall, last time we saw Huss on Hollywood, he was on this Reaper, and he looked for... Oh, Jasper. Oh, poor Jasper.
Well, actually, the way Libalent Supreme are playing, they've kind of timed it so they almost just make another push anyway. So that's a late kill, but Ryan killing Huss as well kind of slows things down for Blank Esports defense. And actually, Libalent Supreme get the remake and the respawn a lot quicker.
Yeah, and Huss actually, because the Pharah came in quickly, is actually able to change up onto McCree, which is going to certainly help them out against the Pharmacy. But there's the window here for Libalent still, but the EMP makes that a hard window to convert on. That being said, they're still the ones converting here, Libalent, even as they lose some members. Pepper getting a nice one in the mix as well, getting Gunba too, and Huss just not quite closing out the kill on that. Does get Darrington, so now can pick out Pepper. That's the one they need. Now it's just Jasper going down at the end there. Blank do just there, like, oh, the world's slowest projectile.
Well, Huss did manage to get a lot of good damage into assist teammates, so one good shot onto Pepper allows teammate Eat Up to clean him up in the skies anyway. So for Libalent Supreme, that was a pretty good offense. For Blank Esports, a little bit slow on the defense. Huss had to change hero just for Pepper coming in. Still did enough damage, but unfortunately pays for it with his life.
And actually now, of course, same thing again. Huss has to start the fight closer back to spawn. That means Blank gonna have to hold down 5 vs 6. Trill doesn't get saved by the sound barrier. Goes down in the fight. Now Gunba hard pressured out. Libalent off to a good start. They do lose Jasper's mech though, so Blank not done just yet as Hulu gets to throw out a self-destruct. Ah! Oh my goodness! 5 with 1! Is that a record for Season 2? Hulu!
That might just be a record for all seasons.
I feel like
I've never seen that in this competition.
Even Hulu, you can see what his screen was not expecting that. That is one way to stabilize in style.
Yeah, I gotta go back to the previous highlight of Kent getting a huge one on Season 1, but I don't know how many he got. That could have been either 4 or 5, but now, like Esports, that is a commanding string of kills from all members, including Hulu.
instant aggression as well. Actually losing Eat You Up, and Darrington got out with his life. So there's still a window here for Libalent. With Ryan dying, maybe that's a closed window now.
Yeah, certainly not a lot of time left to go. 1 minute remaining, not a lot of options, and going back to the original composition. So you have the sort of gameplay from Libalent Supreme where they're just not too sure exactly what they want to run here. Is it Tracer Soldier? Is it Pharmacy? Now going back to Tracer Soldier, all the meanwhile losing ult charge in between each change.
Going for the setup, and Blank have the read flashbangs in to try and get these pickoffs. And honestly, Libalent need to be careful not to funnel into tight spaces because that is EMP territory as it is Pulse Bomb territory, but Pulse Bomb goes wide. Good pressure onto Eat You Up. Libalent though running short on time.
Running short on time and other options as well, but they do have a couple support ultimates that are about to come online. We'll be playing directly into an EMP. There it is.
And that is a good pick on the Gunber, but the Deadeye able to catch Ryan. That's a nice timing on the sound barrier to avoid the EMP. Good self-destruct from Jasper as well, but Huss trying to stop him from getting back in the mech. They lose Eat You Up in this, and Libalent have got the kills that they need. They've got the setup they need as well, but Pepper does actually abandon that high ground. That could cost them, because now Huwu can get aggressive on him. That biotic field, not enough to save him, but now Huwu, kind of the last man standing in this fight alongside Trill, and Ryan has something to say about that. That is Libalent at last getting onto the point itself in quick fashion to cap. It is the overtime, but they will at least buy the point B for themselves. They have a shot at Streets phase.
And Ryan secures the final kill into Gumber as well, forcing a late respawn. This allows now Libalent Supreme to get some early footing onto B, prevent Gumber from getting some early health back, which he's not going to get at all, changing onto the Zenyatta. So for Libalent Supreme, it's good progress.
It is. I do want to remind us, and this is what I was going to say about Huss's Reaper. Last time we saw them on Hollywood, he's not actually running the Reaper right now, but they held the cart super far forward. And I can't remember who it was against, but my goodness, was it one side. I have a feeling it may have been against Mega, actually. That's good catch onto Jasper's mech, though. Going to force Libalent to commit to this fight hard if they want to stay in it, as there and pops the Primal Rage. Blank have committed to this fight hard with the sound barrier, but it is paying off for them. Catch a couple more kills. Darrington does just get out with his life. Oh, Trill, very deep on this one, but it pays off as he catches Slane, but they do need to cover their retreat and regroup.
It's a really awkward Primal Rage used by Darrington there. Should have probably just taken that loss onto the chin, go back to the respawn room and respawn. Effectively, he did that anyway, but at the cost of using an ultimate. So for Libalent Supreme, already down on time, they're already down on progress in terms of cart distance. They don't have time to waste away ults as well.
Absolutely don't. They only have a few at their disposal as well. Need to get a lot of mileage out of, ideally, this tactical visor. Huwu, can he go 2 for 2 with this one? No such luck this time, but I tell you what, he's already earned himself player of the game. Has another headshot onto Ryan, and that's the exact kind of opener that Blank are needing here. As Pepper trying to wrap around the side, does get the Primal Rage out of Trill, but if Blank can get more kills, it's not going to count for much. Good Deadeye catches Darrington, and again, Libalent just getting staggered.
Libalent getting staggered, 50 seconds left to go. They do have some ultimates now, so the timing of this next push is going to be really important. We will be heading to the overtime no matter what. For Libalent Supreme, how far can they get before the overtime actually happens? Can they get to the end and get the cap in while it happens, or is this going to be a full hold from Blank?
And this is a similar position to where Blank recently fell held last time they were in Hollywood as well. So you've got to believe that, yeah, it can be. Payload is going to get a little bit of distance because Blank know they can't go for it just yet. They're respecting the old advantage from Libalent.
And they need to respect it because they need to save up for their own ultimates. RQT's nearly there. Darrington down though, the forward line, the front line pressure from Libalent Supreme does dissipate somewhat, but you do expect the double support ultimates to come through at any moment.
Jasper threw out the self-destruct to create space, but actually it gave Blank space because there were no tanks to hold down the middle of the fight, and that's what Eat You Up and Huss have taken advantage of here, is they're able to get onto the back line. Good catch onto Trill, but they need a lot more out of this tactical visor especially, but it runs out. Now the sound barrier in for Blank. They've got the opportunity to get aggressive themselves. They need to convert some kills here. Maybe the Deadeye will be what does it. They need to spot out Huss's positioning quick, smart, and the self-destruct in from who gets one anyway. They lose RQT, but they're keeping the pressure on. Ryan especially so. With the overtime there, Blank can just take this fight until they're on the cusp of losing it, and can even then back up and take another one if need be. But need might not be, because they're still getting a good number of kills through, even as they lose Huwu.
Trill's even coming back into the soldier here, so you got a lot of back line pressure with the damage output, but where are the tanks? Because Huwu is still down for Blank Esports. They can't maintain the push, and they need to be able to stop this at some point. Libalent Supreme, despite being in overtime, are actually getting the best progress they've had all B so far.
And actually, Trill's going to go back onto the Winston, so that loses them a bit of time and a bit of ult charge. Eat You Up goes down at the top. They haven't got counter kills in just yet. Huss only getting one for his team, but they're getting hard pressured out. Huss especially so. And actually, that's the one fight that Blank still had time for with that initial one being lost, but they're going to lose this one too, and it's likely to result in a point B cap for Libalent again in overtime, and you got to think Blank should be closing it out.
How many times does this have to happen to Blank before they finish a game? Now we're on to C. You get a little bit more time, 1 minute 30 to be exact, but Libalent Supreme, the last time they capped over a point, they still managed to get it to the end anyway. So for Blank now, this is where they got to be most favored to stop Libalent Supreme. Can they actually do it?
Yeah, it's all about converting when it counts, right? Huss going to swap off onto the Sombra, relying on that EMP, and it may be all they need. They do need to get that economy up.
By the way, Libalent Supreme still coming through with momentum, so this next fight really important for Blank Esports. If they stabilize, they're very likely to get a full hold. Otherwise, Libalent might just push on through.
Yeah, the stick got the damage on Huru to demech him. Jasper not getting anything but space with that self-destruct. He will be able to get back in the mech, so this is still potentially anyone's fight, but with Huru out of the mech, there's a good window for Libalent, but Eat You Up getting the pressure on. That's the EMP out now. They look to convert. Good timing on the sound barrier, though, and the tactical visor as well. Just maybe not getting enough members with that EMP, but Libalent getting pressured back anyway. It may not matter, and Pepper, despite the tactical visor, just has to keep ceding ground. They catch Huss at the very end of it, but Blank have held for now.
And we're not in overtime yet, so this is the only fight that Libalent Supreme can afford to lose. Anything else from here is probably going to cost them the entire map. Now for Blank, they still have opportunity to hold on here. Libalent Supreme as well. Couple ultimates now online. This is going to be a close fight.
Close indeed, and first some ground has to be given by Blank because again they've got to respect the ultimates from Libalent, but they've also got to go for the fight eventually, and now may just be that eventuality. Good catch on Ryan, good bait out from him as he was going deep onto Eat You Up, and that's the ultimates now out of Libalent. The Transcendence especially as the pressure comes in. Good placement on the self-destruct by Huru to pressure out the members, and those are the kills that Blank have been needing. Those are the kills they have indeed been lacking for the last three fights, but at last, just shy of cap number 3, Libalent are going to get pushed back for good.
Even an EMP right at the end there to make sure Ryan can't get a blink onto the cut, and finally Blank, they complete the hold, but wow, that should have happened on A. They had such a good hold there. They had such a good hold even on B, but 3 times, or rather twice to be exact, going to 3 overtimes. Libalent Supreme got so much out of so little.
Well, I'd even call it 3 times because there did have to be the cap, the fight that won that. There had to be the one for Libalent that got the payload underway on B, and then there had to be the one that got the cap on B, and they actually got all 3 of those. They got them at the last possible minute, but the thing is, Blank didn't. Blank could have, and they didn't all 3 of those times, and now you can't help but feel like that payload got a lot further than it had any right to.
And still, this is a winnable scenario for Blank because they don't have to push it all the way to the end. They just have to finish where that yellow box is, but still, you just have to consider it shouldn't even have gotten that far. When the overtime happened 3 times, it took Blank 3 attempts to stop Libalent Supreme when it should have just been the once. And for a team that is trying to make playoffs right now, we talk about having a stable performance. You look at Flash Wolves, they just barely maybe managed to achieve that. But for Blank so far, where even their position in the playoffs isn't certain just yet, this is a scary place to be.
You'd certainly want it to be happening a little bit cleaner, and you know, we've got to go back to this thing again of like, if you were going to have this win and look good approaching playoffs, you would have full held on A, or maybe held out as far forward as you were on B. The fact that the payload got as far as it did, look, win or lose, you are the 4th place team at that point, and you're going to be going into the playoffs looking like the 4th place team. And that is if you make it, because you do still have to beat AHQ.
And the most concerning part was actually in B push. Libalent Supreme got the most progress actually in the overtime itself, so that's the part that's really got to be a question mark on top of Blank, but now opportunity for Blank to redeem themselves on this next attack.
Also opportunity for Huss to redeem himself on this Genji.
So a lot of questions for Blank, and this is one of them.
Exactly. I mean, one of the questions, funnily enough, it's not just Huss's Genji, it's Huss in general. And we've started to see some improvement, but we've yet to see consistency on that improvement just yet. But now the wraparound comes in, and Libalent getting very pressured back here. Blank need to be careful to not split themselves up, but actually they're able to split Libalent apart as they pick Darrington. Jasper going to get demexed, and Ryan and Pepper getting pressured away from the fight. Now, this is what Blank have been needing.
A couple of good picks here, especially from us actually teaming up with Eat Up to clean up the important members, and Libalent Supreme already on the back foot. Blank already looking like they're going to get this early cap on out. No, not enough players rather alive for Libalent Supreme to really get a contest here, and so far, so good.
They still need to get the payload all the way through, but they have plenty of time to do it at least. Hust looking to get aggressive on this high ground, needs to be careful doing so though, but it means Libalent don't get the position for free, and that translates into a bit of extra distance on the card.
That's very important for a team like Blank Esports right now, pushing on through to make sure they have the early pressure on the defensive positioning of Libalent Supreme, who, because they're running a soldier, really need to make use of the high ground. So if Blank can just lodge them, that's a big blow against the defending side.
The reality is, though, with this payload underway, the pressure is actually on Libalent to dislodge Blank. Now they're finally going to go into commit to this fight, but they're very lean on ultimates, and Blank have the defensive ones. Sound Barrier going to be the first commit as they start to get aggressive, and this is good for them to open it out. RQT even going to get Jasper with the right click, and that's going to be more payload distance still for Blank.
And all off the back of one ultimate as well. This might even be another kill. Hus picking that one up for his team, and Blank Esports looking to potentially spawn camp Libalent Supreme, meanwhile getting free cart push. This is a very difficult place for Blank to be in, but Hus maybe outstepped his boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely did, and also missed the door in the retreat. It has created good space, and they got the pick on Darrington as well. Chill going to look to trap these members to stop them from contesting, and again, it's just going to translate to more cart distance for them. They do need to respect the damage, though. That means Gunbear has to pop the Transcendence, but they're committing to this trap, and it may just pay off. The cart's nearly there. Libalent still haven't committed, and now they lose Ryan. It might just go over. Finally going to be able to get around the far side.
Support ults.
Yeah, the double support ults could be the saving grace as well as Chill goes down off the top. Hustler is in the fight now, and he's going to be looking for the back line, trying to find Selene. That forces out the Transcendence, and he doesn't get anything else with this Dragon Blade, unfortunately. Blank just going to have to take that one on the chin.
Still very good distance, though. When you consider what actually happened, it does look a little bit sad that Blank didn't manage to get the camp, but actually they got everything off one push. A good stall out from Libalent Supreme to make sure, rather from Blank against Libalent Supreme, to make sure they spawn in an awkward manner, to make sure that you actually spawn camp them and stop them from contesting the card, allows Gumbo and the rest of Blank Esports to actually get this one big push on through, and now off that kind of momentum, Blank have a lot of options to finish up B.
And Libalent did have to use all of their ultimates for that fight. Just getting the Pulse Bomb online now, but Blank crucially close to those two defensive ultimates. That could be all they need.
So 3 minutes and 12 seconds remaining. Libalent Supreme finally have stabilized, but losing the double support ultimates while Blank are about to get both of theirs. Means Blank now really threatened to get that cap on through. For Libalent Supreme, as soon as we get to C, that's danger zone.
Good dive onto these backliners as Blank gets the sound barrier out of them, but Blank are actually in a nicely clustered position here. Ryan's still kind of threading around, but he's not being able to get much so far. Gunber should be able to transcend. Oh, doesn't get it out in time, but Blank are still converting a few kills in this one. Able to get Keisuke as well. Hus looking to show up here. EDU up going down to Ryan though. Nice headshot, but Hus looking to avenge that one. And he can still do this. He needs to get Pepper out of the picture. Gumber can rejoin with a Transcendence. A little bit of a tight spot though, and Hus going down means Chill gonna have to fall back.
One more time, Blank get rebuffed. And who takes who out of the picture is the real question. Yeah, Blank Esports at least though are charging up those ultimates, are coming in for one big Doom push to complete B. Unfortunately, the time does not work in their favor right now. When they do get across the board, what kind of time remains? Is it 1 minute? Is it 1 minute 30 or even less? Because Blank Esports are now on the verge of potentially not completing the map in time, even if we do get to see if Libalent continue this defense.
The dives onto the backliners of Blank out of Libalent have been really good so far, but this time around, Gunber gonna get revenge for last time. No supports dying just yet on the side of Blank. The ultimates are now here for Libalent that they can commit. That's going to be the self-destructive first of them, so that Jasper preserves the mech. Trill trying to get aggressive with this Primal Rage. Needs to make sure he stays alive, though, as Hus looks to get aggressive now, struggling to find members because Keisuke already went down, and there's a Transcendence here, keeping Pepper and Selene alive both, as Gunber does get picked, but the pressure's still in from Blank. Lean on ultimates, but still plenty of damage, and they have the position in the fight now. Libalent just a little bit too scattered. Going to come in for a last-minute contest there with this sound barrier, but again, the scattered positioning is going to cost them, as Blank still closing out these kills off the back end of the fight.
Now you have to question the decision-making from Libalent Supreme, because they were already unfavored to win that fight, and they're still using ultimates. These very late picks are just going to make it even more difficult for Libalent Supreme. Look, 2 minutes and 30 for the defense is possible, but it's a lot less possible when you're committing stuff like sound barriers into a losing scenario. You'd be much better off setting up for a C and a full hold at C at that, because that is going to be the only case where Libalent Supreme can finish with a win. Otherwise, easy for Blank.
Pepper, Keisuke, and Celine were all stuck on the wrong side of that fight towards the end, and it ended up costing them, especially with Keisuke going down so late. Now Blank, they just want to get aggressive quick. They just want to close this one out. Nice pulse bomb into the mix. Doesn't quite get too much done, but the damage is good, and it opens the way for conversions. Pepper's got something else to say about it, but they haven't quite closed it out yet. Now the EMP to come in, and they're looking to get that closeout damage onto Darrington and Jasper. Indeed they do. Gunba onto the soldier is getting the work done. Late pick on Pepper could be all they need to push it over the line.
Now with 140 remaining, the card is so close, and Libalent Supreme still just trying to get their ultimates online. If they can get it online in time, it'll be good, but where is the defense? Finally, members drop down.
Darrington's going to be the first one onto it, but they're only stalling it so that the team can come in. That means they don't get the priority position on the card. It's Blank who have it with the self-destruct forward. Jasper commits his own to the back line of Blank, but nothing for it just yet as Chill gets Pepper. Blank still have this positioning that they need as they're converting these kills, and the triple DPS is working wonders. Gunba now, Tactical Visor looking to close it out. Darrington is going to be able to go aggressive with that Primal Rage to force him away from the fight, but the rest of the Blank members are still in the fight, and they're still getting kills in the fight. Pepper trades one back though. The payload is down to the wire. Blank need to get it over the line pretty much now. They do technically have time to lose this one, but you don't want to. You want to get it done right here, right now, and they're just struggling a little. Huge
nope, they're not
bomb.
doing it.
Trill dives it back into his team, and yeah, they're not doing it. They only just have enough time for a final hurrah.
Yeah, 30 seconds remaining. This is not what Blank want at all. You talk about wanting a stable match. This is just not going to happen. Blank Esports on their final legs here. The EMP has to be the tool. This has to work for Blank, or not at all, because Libalent Supreme now seriously threatening to take this map away from Blank.
There's the sound barrier for KCK with RQT shy of his own. That's the instant commit on Pepper onto the back line. EMP is good, but it's not going to get Pepper, but they've got the convert anyway. He still gets Trill. That could be all they need. No, he does not regroup with his team, and Blank are still in this one, getting these kills through. There's the sound barrier from RQT, and Hoo-Woo, he got a good one on A, gets another one to close out the game. They are going to get the cap there. Looks a little bit dicey, and again, far closer than Blank could ever consider comfortable, especially when you consider how Lijiang Tower went as well. But Blank are going to pick up Hollywood.
Blank always got to keep it interesting, though. They like to make people sweat when you really think about how they play.
Who got player of the game?
Standard.
Oh man, just a Tuesday. I mean,
Straight in front of the security room as well, so he just kind of predicted where the positioning of the Libalent Supreme players were, and kind of had it in a spot where he was going to have the maximum coverage. So just well played, well put down. Libalent Supreme felt that one, or are going to feel that one in the morning, rather.
They're still feeling it right now. They're like, oh, remember when we all died? And then like just when you...
Well, the game reminds you, so yeah.
That's the thing, like just when you forgot, like suddenly it comes up in play of the game. I always hate that. When play of the game comes up and like I'm one of the first people that dies in it, I'm like, oh, that was me. That was bad. That was me. Oh, it's the worst feeling.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, this is my play of the game. That was me. Yep. Still me.
Yeah, because you're the one getting the play of the game. Jeez. Right. Well, with that, it is going to be Blank picking up the 2-0 victory. Thank base Huru, I suppose, because it was his self-destruct that got the final kill as well to push it over the line. But I've got to go back to that. Look, both of these have not been comfortable wins for Blank. They have been wins, and that is what kind of counts, I suppose, but we're talking about a team that is making playoffs potentially, coming up against the current last place team who has yet to pick up a single map win aside from one against Flash Wolves. Look, you want to be having far better performances than a close 3-0.
And this is why you got to go back to the fact that even looking at Lijiang Tower and now especially reinforced with Hollywood performance, at what point does Libalent Supreme make that 99% play into a 100% play and suddenly they get themselves a map win? The margins are so tight. Let's take a look at the replay now and the opening of, or rather already halfway through the attack of Libalent Supreme.
And they do end up getting repelled here. Honestly, Blank actually had this really nicely handled the whole way through. Libalent kept kind of splitting up their position. Now, there was this factor here where Jasper and Huss died quite late in the prior fight, so Jasper is back sooner than Huss, but they're able to survive long enough for Huss to rejoin, and when he does, he actually really pulls his weight. Actually, hold on, this is a different fight. This is the one where Huru pulls all the weight himself. Huss doesn't even get a chance. It was actually, I tell you what, it was the fight before that where that had happened with Huss.
And this is probably, and I think right after this fight as well, Pepper and I believe Selene decide to change compositions, and this is kind kind of the part that hurts Libalent Supreme because they're not quite sure what they want to play. And in certain regards, you just want to stick to what you're playing in instead of continuously playing what I like to call compositional catch-up. You're always just playing behind the pace of the other team. They're dictating what their composition is, and you're saying, oh, we just have to try and counter it. Oh, we got countered.
Yeah.
Now we have to uncounter ourselves, and we're just always behind on ultimate challenge, and that's what it looked like for Libalent Supreme.
One thing that had been quite good as well on the side of Blank there is they made the swap to put Huss onto the McCree, given that the Pharah and Mercy were coming out. And that's the thing, because Huss had actually died, because there was that 6 versus 5 situation that Libalent wanted to commit to, they committed and revealed the Pharah with enough time for Huss to actually swap, which ended up being a bit of a boon for them. And here we have what ended up being the final fight where Libalent did at last get it across.
This was still a very difficult play for them, and look for the EMP out from Gumbo. This is where you expect really good things to happen out from the Blank Esports side of things. Huss getting the kill into Ryan was pretty good, but it was originally traded by the fact that Gumbo died. Now, because Keisuke had a sound barrier, Selene having a transcendence as well, they have the staying power, and that's what's really important for Libalent Supreme, and what's a big part of their ability to actually get the cap.
And that's the thing, by comparison, Blank only had the EMP, RQT died just shy of a sound barrier. To be honest, at that point, it wouldn't have saved too many members, but the reality is all of Blank's DPSs died at probably the most inopportune times. And look, yeah, it's good to get that kill with the Deadeye out of Huss. He was, reading what happened in the Flash Wolves Hong Kong Attitude series, where Zonda kept dying to Shylin as he was channeling Deadeye, so he went, okay, it's important that I kill the Tracer, but ideally, he wanted to get a lot more than just that one, and indeed, had he got more than just the one, they probably could have survived that fight.
There's a lot of potentials there for the Blank Esports side. It doesn't really end there because that was one of the multiple moments where you thought if they had just done this, if they just made a slight adjustment, they would have fully held. Now let's go around the other side and take a look at Blank Esports' own attack onto A.
And if you talk about had they just, well, they just did it right here, and it was very quick and it was very clean. You see Huss looking to get the wraparound here, and then they commit to the dive very, very cleanly. They pressure off these members, a bunch are stuck off to the side. The rest that are fighting in the middle of this just dive into this cluster of Blank members. And there's very little you can actually do in that situation. Libalent kind of split themselves up and really didn't do themselves any favors. Rather than kind of weathering the storm or moving in any coordinated fashion, they were constantly playing reaction. They split off members to try and avoid Blank's dive. They tried to send in some members, but they didn't really have enough to send it at once. They all got picked off, and it just fell to bits really quickly.
And that was Blank's first attempt as well, so it's really important that they got a lot of distance and momentum off the first push. Now, when you got onto B, this is when Blank had a lot of problems, especially right at the end. Off of one push, they got the cart nearly fully capped out, and there was a lot of spawn camping. Huss was a proponent of that. Eat Up and Trill were in the middle of the mix as well, but as soon as Huss went down in an overextension, couldn't quite find the exit in time, that's when things started to turn around. Libalent Supreme found an opening, had double defensive ultimates, and really took it to Blank, and after that, it took Blank a long time before they got the cart back in.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. It was a little odd as well, because actually up till that point, Huss had done quite a good job of not overextending, and he had the escape route as well. He just missed it. Like, he didn't, it was like he got a little bit too flustered in the moment, as unfortunate as that is to say, and actually, had he been able to get out, maybe if he had died, it would have been Libalent overextending to get the kill. Maybe he wouldn't have died either, and they would have had the numbers to take that fight much more safely. But look, what happened, and Blank did still win in the end.
I mean, the first time I went to Hollywood, I didn't know where the exits were either, so I don't blame Blank whatsoever. But now 2-0 and up there threatening to completely close out the series. Libalent Supreme have one more opportunity to come back in. We'll have to find out what happens right after this break. Thank you for sticking through that break with us, and now we're heading into map 3 of the series between Blank Esports and Libalent Supreme, going to Horizon Lunar Colony.
Yeah, Libalent's map pick, and oh right, it was Doomfist. I was like, why is she suddenly rising into the air
I didn't
as well?
actually know that happens. That's
Yeah.
interesting. It doesn't affect the game in any way, but it's a nice kind of
Yeah,
I
well,
guess,
it's only-
artistic thing.
It's only when they're ragdolling, you know? Like if they're alive, it doesn't happen. That would be a bit nuts. That would be like suddenly you're just like lifting off the ground. It's like, uh-oh. I know it's coming.
It's
like
one of those
apparently-
things like a rocket taking off. You shoot up so fast in the sky, everything around you just kind of flies as well.
Well, it's like when you're about to get struck by lightning, apparently your hair will start to stand up. So it's like, you just stand there, your hair starts inexplicably rising, you're like, uh-oh.
I feel like you don't have enough time to react if that was
No, that's the thing,
case.
you don't. And it's the same with the meteor strike. Like, you just don't have enough. Like, by the time you're getting lifted off the ground, it's too late. It's like when you're at the beach and suddenly the tide just goes way out. It's like, you are going to die. There's nothing you can do. Sorry.
Unless there's a tall building nearby, you run to it and take an express elevator to the rooftop.
And maybe then the building still topples over. Like, it's just like, that's the thing. Like,
Yeah, but then you gave yourself the best shot, right?
Yeah,
Then-
yeah, exactly.
Then it's hard to complain. It's not like
better-
it's not like you guys stood there and just let it happen. It's like I gave it
Yeah,
my
so you
best
know what?
shot. And
I
it's
tried.
Like, you know what? I tried. If it's not good enough, it's not good enough. But I tried.
yeah, you know, like that.
Can't blame you
yeah.
for trying.
Yeah, when your dad is like, you know what, son, you tried your best, and that's what matters. Like, it's exactly that. It's like, you know what, you tried your best.
Yep.
You know, you were probably already a goner, but at least you gave
That's
yourself
the-
a good shot.
And that's the eulogy he reads over your casket. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's like,
that's
you
right.
tried
That
your-
got dark really quick.
Tried
sorry.
your best, son. Like, what if that was like just at the funeral, like, you tried your best, son? Like, that's all he says. Like,
But shoddy building construction couldn't save you.
yeah. Oh man. Oh man. I was gonna make another joke to
well,
kind of follow on from that, but it would have been.
I'll tell you what.
a little mean.
I'll tell you what though. It doesn't happen on the moon because there's just no water. There's no
No water. Yeah, exactly.
Tide
You're-
can't go out. In fact, the moon is the thing that makes the tide go in and out anyway. So
Yeah.
you're part of the problem by being on the moon.
Well, it's like, I was gonna say, yeah, nothing could go wrong in the moon, but actually, hold on.
I feel like the moon. I feel like so much more.
Yeah.
Much more could
A
go wrong.
lot more could go wrong on the moon, absolutely. But you know what? the worst thing that could possibly happen on the moon right now is Libalent don't get a single map win here. That would be the worst possible thing to happen on the moon.
And the worst thing for Blank is Libalent do get a map win.
Yeah, that would be the worst possible thing. I mean, the worst possible thing for either of these teams would be to lose. Be a lunar disaster. Well, it's no opening pick just yet, so Libalent do get themselves set up with Pepper.
So good move around so far. I was going to say from Blank, but you know what? They do maintain this position in the back line, so it's not all bad just yet. Libalent Supreme, you do wonder where this setup is going to be.
Man, Ryan and Huss were just playing full-on cat and mouse, and Huss goes, you know what, never mind, I'm going to play cat and gorilla. Instantly kills
chasing a Tracer around this map is a bit of a waste of time, especially as a Doomfist.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are better things to be doing with your fist. To be dooming with your fist, as it were.
Yeah.
This is the person who should be dealing with the Tracer, is your own Tracer. It's mouse on mouse action. That's going to be the aggressive move now out of Blank, trying to get the round. No instant kills, they do just back off, but they buy a lot of time.
1 minute already gone now, off the table for Libalent Supreme. Couple ultimates though, so they have that to work with, and they're going to get some big ones before Blank Esports even do. It's not going to be by any large margin, because RQT and Gumba now both catch up.
Gunba had to commit that Transcendence there because the members were getting quite low and Libalent had made that commit. Samberry now for RQT could be the difference though, as Ryan wide on the pulse bomb. And really Libalent just waiting to get something like this tactical visor available. Huss looking to get aggressive straight onto Selene, able to separate him out from the fight, and they go in for the rest of the members that have been separated from their healers. Good catch on Pepper as well, and Darrington committing the Primal Rage but only getting one for it. You can't really say that that's a favorable trade for himself. And Trill may just have to commit his Primal Rage, but he's going to hold on to the last, doesn't end up having to commit it in the end, and Blank are going to hold.
Who are going to get the remake kill onto Ryan as well, and it's going to be a commit from Keisuke, only catching himself and two others in the sound barrier. This might not be a good decision for Libalent Supreme, and it's certainly not.
Yeah, and the Pulse Bomb is a really cheap ultimate to use to close out that fight. Trill was indeed able to hold on to the Primal Rage. RQT able to hold on to the sound barrier. Didn't even actually get it up in time, but doesn't have to commit it either. So, I mean, honestly, for Blank, that ended up going about as good as it could have, given how protracted that was.
Exactly. Holds it on, but not by his own choice. So for Libalent Supreme, now less than 2 minutes remaining to get this one done. Selene very close to the Transcendence, and you're going to look at these micro ultimates. It feels like only one ultimate coming up at a time for Libalent Supreme. The rotations just don't look good, especially not if plays are going down.
That is the aggressive move from Blank, and it forces a Transcendence from Selene, but the Keisuke pick comes through anyway. And this is just aggression out of...
Okay.
Do the bullets travel slower in the low gravity? I wonder how that works.
I don't even know, dude.
Well, there'd be like no fall off from the distance. Ryan going to try and get the run down on I Eat You Up, but it'll just be a consolation prize, and he's not even going to get that. Actually, Eat You Up is going to run him down instead. And Libalent just getting forced way back, using a lot of ultimates up for it too.
And the final minute now for Libalent Supreme. Not even a third cap through on the cap so far. Blank Esports have done a great job of making sure that Libalent Supreme do not get any progress. And still struggling to see the real win condition, because at every single juncture, Libalent Supreme have been spending ultimates, but have not converted those ultimates into anything meaningful.
Now Blank had the ultimates at their disposal. Pulse Bomb out from Eat You Up doesn't quite convert this time, but looking to get aggressive still, and this just continuously puts Libalent on the back foot. Huss wants to go aggressive with this if he can so help it, or at least zone off some members. Can't quite find the angle for it, so
just scouting Meteor Strike.
Yeah, scouting Meteors, yeah. Backs off, which is the smart option, and they pull out the self-destruct from Jasper, gets nothing for it, and now it is just all Blank in the lead here as they have the ultimates available, looking to convert quickly. Selene able to save the scene with his Transcendence, though, keeping the fight alive, but they need to get the kills still, as Huss is getting the loop around, gets Ryan. They do lose Trill in the mix, but they're still in command of the point itself. Libalent find a way to break in at last with these kills coming up. They do lose Darrington, but they are just barely able to get this one over the line, it seems.
I think Black Esports are still going to try and make this one count. There are a couple members still just hanging around this 8 cap. Well, they're still hanging. If they're not going to, they should back off, and they're not deciding to. So very strange from Blank Esports. If you're not going to make this play, don't have your members sitting around there. Gumbo going down quite late. Libalent Supreme, once again, in the overtime, get the cap on over. So they just like to keep it interesting. Only in the overtime do Libalent Supreme seem to be able to get the work done, and somehow in the overtime, Blank Esports just let it happen.
Yeah, it's like their 11th hour superpower, you know? It only turns on when it's absolutely crucial. Like,
And what for Blank, it turns off.
yeah, it's like you only have the power of flight when you're about to fall to your death kind of thing, right? There's actually the ultimates here to stop the snowball. This is a good tactical visor from Pepper, but it is a little bit forced. So if he doesn't convert much for it, then that's a resource, a big snowball resource that Libalent don't have on the table. Blank, though, they're still keeping these ultimates on rotation, just barely, but it's enough to hold out if Libalent go for a full commit.
And the worst part here actually for Libalent Supreme is they're not able to get out of this area. They need to actually get into the camp itself. Finally, Darton jumps out. This might give Pepper a bit of room to play with, but Libalent Supreme still locked up by the Blank tanks.
And again, Huss is just cutting off these members here. Transcendence comes out and a good catch on Trill, but these members can't really do a whole lot. That's the Transcendence from Gunba in equal measure. Huwu, every single time, man. This dude's self-destruction off the chain tonight. And Pepper getting pressured back as well. Huwu's going to get that one too. Remember that time Huwu got player of the game again?
Yeah, base Huwu he's the one, he's keeping Blank really afloat here. That's cool though. Wait till the overtime and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, wait till the, either he's going to get another 5k or they're just going to get absolutely rolled. You never know. You really never know. But that's the thing. They do have to hold out all the way through this overtime. That's actually not super comfortable for Blank.
Blank need a little bit of they need something to use here because they're changing heroes still. Huss has been on the Genji now for a bit after changing from Doomfist, and Pepper finally in a pretty good position. Well protected by tanks as well. Good angle to get the damage in, but we need to see the progress on the cap.
They don't quite have the ultimates to commit just yet, Libalent, but as they catch Huss, they might not need the ultimates as they're able to top themselves up. Ooh, Ryan gets picked off on the side, and that's kind of the boon, I suppose, for Blank, even as RQT is getting pressured out. He's going to live as well, and they catch Diariton, so Libalent just going to have to back off now. Blank continually buying time.
They're going to lick their wounds a little bit, waiting for their members to come back, and still haven't seen how Libalent Supreme actually set this one up. This is going to be their big push because they've got double support ultimates, double DPS ultimates. You got to think this is where they make their mark as well. Blank Esports still a little bit behind the mark. RQT should have the sound barrier in time for the fight, but Huss is the one you got to look at because where is the Dragon Blade, and most importantly, what does he get from it?
And they need to be careful on these dives as well, because actually it's easy for Libalent to stay healed up here. Sound barrier out to counter the tactical visor, eat you up, pressured off on the side. But that does mean that Pepper doesn't get much with the tac visor. Now Libalent commit with their own sound barrier, trying to get onto the point itself, but struggling. Pulse Bomb connects onto Trill once again, though. Diariton popping the Primal Rage, but Libalent are now out of resources. Huss looking to get aggressive, finds Keisuke. Doesn't quite find Rion, unfortunately for himself, and he does go down as well. Libalent's still in this one, but actually with the death of Rion, is looking a little bit too lean for themselves. Huwu as well, just going to throw out the self-destruct for good measure. Might as well. You tend to get 5Ks when you Huwu. Doesn't get it this time, but they're going to get the fight win anyway.
40 seconds now remain for Libalent Supreme. They're going to have to come back in the next push rather dry. They've got no ultimates to use. Edip wants to challenge Huwu for play of the game here, getting a large string of kills, mostly headshots, and this wastes a lot more time for Libalent Supreme, who have even less time to work with and even less ultimates.
Yeah, they had 40 seconds at the top of losing that fight, and then just kind of kept losing it for an extra 20 seconds. This is now their last opportunity to push.
And they just got to rush for this one, and this is typically where Libalent Supreme get the best distance, so expecting a couple of ticks on the cap at least, but for Blank Esports, this is a dangerous moment for them. We've already seen how well Libalent Supreme can play in the final ticks.
Yeah, watch as the superpower suddenly engages. Blank, though, going to try and put pressure on Libalent to force them out of this one, and it pays off as Diariton gets picked. Jasper does not find enough with the self-destruct, and who headshots the pilot form Jasper? That's for taking my mech away. And Trill getting pressured out, getting pressure rather onto Selene does force the Transcendence, but it's a forced one that can't really save many members because they're all dead, as is Selene now, and that is the point behold for Blank. All they need to do is cap A and get a third.
Cap B and get a third. Get one third on B.
Yeah, cap A and get a third.
That's
Yeah.
So you're technically
like
correct.
like
That's
the
true.
thing I said was true.
I was just
Correct.
for my understanding. I was just making
right.
sure that my brain was still working.
Do I need?
But
I could translate it into Mandarin for you.
we
Would
could
that
also
help?
draw a picture that would probably help too. So
Like
maybe do
diagrams?
both.
Like-
Flowcharts work quite
You're
well.
like a
for me, so
visual
take the point
learner.
of it. Yeah.
well,
Put it on a tape for me and I'll listen to it when I'm sleeping. That's
It's like,
I'm a good learner
I
that way.
feel like you're in a spelling bee right now. Like, could you put it in a sentence?
an example.
Blank need to cap A and get a third. In a sentence, right? I got it. Well,
like you said, though, that is actually what they need to be able to do.
It
And Libalent Supreme, similar to their Hollywood run, they need to have a pretty decent A here. You have to expect them to get so much time to force the overtime push actually from Blank. So that then puts Blank in a scenario where they have 4 minutes to get B. That's probably the only realistic way for Libalent Supreme to do this outside of actually getting a full hold in A itself, which is going to be a very difficult task.
that crane is always moving. What's making it move?
The wind outside.
The crane is just slowly panning back and forth. No one lives here. This facility is abandoned. Like,
Hey, gorillas live here.
all right.
The
maybe
other
they're-
gorillas.
So like all the gorillas that are still alive are like, you know what would be great now that we've overthrown the human overlords? I want to be a crane operator. Of all the activities you could do.
My human handler wanted me to be a scientist. I'll show him.
Yeah, I'll be a crane operator.
And do
It's
what?
like the inverse of what your father hopes you'll become. Did that hit too close to home, AVRL? It's going to be Blank on the attack. Just to recap, they need a cap A and get a third of B.
Right, so it's going to be, again, the composition that you do see most commonly out of Libalent Supreme. Already off to a tricky start, though. Good pressure early on by Blank. Got to be careful not to lose Trill here or things get dangerous.
And they lose Gunva as well, so things are very dangerous. This is the middle of danger. Highway to the danger zone, I don't know. Or like Moon Rocket to the danger zone. Husk's going to be able to get out to the safety zone. Oh, no, not quite. Darrett's a little bit deep on that one, and he's going to be able to convert the kill. So that's basically a rout.
This is a good string of kills from Libalent Supreme to start things off with. You've got to respect the pressure they immediately put onto Blank, and actually the counter pressure, because Blank jumped first, then they got Trill, cleaned up Gumba, and routed the rest. So now Blank got to take this maybe a little bit slower, reassess their targeting and reassess their pathing, and maybe go to the other side up the stairs.
That's exactly the plan, but Husk dies in the rotation, so this is an opportunity for Libalent to again get aggressive, get a route, as Blank have to find a way out of this sticky situation, find a way to retreat, losing Trill and Gunva, but they do trade 2 back, still looking a little bit rough, and they're not going to be able to retreat all that cleanly, but the rest of their members do survive.
Still a lot of slowdown though, and Soleil now getting quite close to this Transcendence. Ryan already sitting onto Pulse Bomb. A lot of good tools here from Libalent Supreme to continue this defense, and actually this is seemingly a little bit more dominant than Blank's own defense so far, because Blank haven't even been able to set up this attack. They just get lost around these opening parts. Libalent Supreme just finding the picks every time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Getting members picked, that's exactly what's happening. As the aggression in from Ryan, good damage onto Trill, doesn't quite close it this time, and Blank now set up in this next spot, going to make their next move.
Yep, it's going to force a little bit of time wasted just to heal Trill back up, but otherwise Blank Esports, they're going to be able to move on through, finally getting feet planted on the camp itself, forcing Libalent Supreme to rotate instead.
They need to get aggressive now, Blank, but it's not looking good as the opening kills already, and they just haven't got anything in response. Huru doesn't even have the self-destruct to get a magical 5k to turn it back around, so Blank again just going to get repelled, now actually starting to run out of time.
They have farmed up both of these support ultimates now, so what they can do is come in for a big power play, where Libalent Supreme do not have any of their support ultimates. They're going to be able to tide over the fact that Pepper has a tactical visor, shouldn't be losing anybody because of both those supports.
This is looking a little bit dicey for Blank, but still doable. Very much doable. They don't need to get too much. This is still Assault, though, where, I don't know, it's kind of anathema for Blank. They just seem...
That's the thing, right? Just when you think Blank are doing well, they remind you it's Assault and it's still Blank playing Assault, so we'll have to see. Results will speak for themselves.
Yeah, sound barrier to kind of ward off the pincer movement from Libalent. It was a self-destruct in the front and Darreton in the back, but doesn't quite pull off. Blank do not have that tool available now as they start to commit to the point itself. They're looking for this one to just go a little bit better than last time around, though. They're struggling to again get the opening kills. Now Pepper can get the tactical visor. Transcendence is there from Gunva to answer. Now Pepper's forced quite a way back. Huwu is at the good positioning. No, they're able to avoid it largely, but Blank get the time on the point to set up the cap. Now Libalent looking to re-aggress with their tactical visor, and that's the catch that Blank need to open this one up. And Huss on the soldier getting some legwork in. They do lose a couple of members, but this time they're very much in control of the fight. Short of Ryan pulling off an absolute miracle, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Blank are going to get the point at cap. Now they need to get that third I was talking about.
This is, I guess, the next best case scenario for Libalent Supreme, where despite not forcing the overtime onto A, they get as close as they can to that. So 4 minutes 14 now still to attack for Blank Esports. Is it possible for Libalent Supreme to hold? It's going to be difficult, but certainly possible.
It's certainly possible, and they've got the ultimates to do it as well, at least to stop up this initial snowball. Off the back of that, they kind of need to kickstart their ult economy.
Where is the momentum pressure from Libalent Supreme, or rather from Blank Esports? So this is what they really need to be able to push on through to B. If they can get a good pick here with the tactical visor, things start to open up.
And that is that good pick. Darrett's in the first casualty, and he's keeping eyes on Ryan on the side as well. Pepper, no tactical visor for himself, and now sound barrier as well. And look at this positioning from Huss. He's just balancing, getting damage on the front line of Libalent and the backliners who are trying to flank around. But Blank are starting to get beaten back a little bit with Huwu going down, and unfortunately that is the good return kills that Libalent needed to just stay in that one. Not quite enough momentum for Blank.
Now it's a rebuilding phase for Blank with 3 minutes and 15 remaining. This is still scary. They just don't have the time to work with that they're really comfortable with. Libalent Supreme were in a very similar situation with only 4 minutes on their own B attack. They just couldn't get the distance on any of those move-ins. So for Blank, maybe 3 potential pushes here, 4 if they're quick about it, but it's just not enough. It's not enough attempts.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard ask to be sure, and the ultimate's coming up now for Libalent. Blank need a couple of pushes just to kind of pull those ones out, unless they just get a real great round of picks, and that's always a tough ask.
This has got a lot of ultimates in line for Libalent Supreme as well. Already this pulse bomb is not going to hit anything with the tactical visor up from Pepper. All Blank can do is wait for this one out.
And they do at least wait it out. Eat You Up yet to rejoin the fight. The Keisuke getting Gunva with the bio grenade. Jasper does lose the mech, but honestly, Blank struggling to get a leg up in this fight once again. They do close out of Pepper and Ryan actually, but without Huwu in the mech, it's going to be just a little bit tricky. Jasper's able to get back into his own. The support ultimates now have been committed from Libalent. Huss with the tactical visor though. Huwu may just get back in the mech, and that could be big for them as they pick off Selene. And they only need that 1/3. Jasper loses the mech and dies. Pepper needs to pull out a miracle with Rayon here, and then it's going to be a hard ask. All they've got so far is Huss, but not more than that as he goes down. That is that 1/3 that Blank needed, and they do get it.
That a nice pickup from Blank now, and got to feel good about not dropping a map over for Libalent Supreme. A lot of really close calls there. Hollywood was super tight right down to the last second. Lee Jung as well had some really tight moments, and this was probably the most comfortable map for Blank, ironically, when you consider their record here.
And it actually turns out that it is Eat You Up getting a kill and then 3 headshots. It's kind of stole the play of the game from Huwu. That's what happens when you don't get a 5K Huwu. You don't get play of the game.
What he does get, and what the rest of Blank do get as well, is another win on that table, pushing them further in the lead. And that's going to be very important now, going up against the other teams remaining next week in OPC Season 2, if Blank are going to make the playoffs at all.
And that's the thing, it is the 3-0 victory. They're happy to take that one, to be sure, but not a comfortable one. Good sportsmanship all around. Given a good old hug to Jasper as well. What a nice guy. But on the whole, you've got to say it, right? Blank, thanks to Mega beating AHQ, are in 4th place. They need to beat AHQ to stay secure in 4th place. And ideally, they want to beat Hong Kong Attitude to take 3rd place so that they don't have to come up against Ardian in the semi-final. And with this performance, maybe not being as one-sided as you would have hoped, being Blank playing the last place team, actually, the potential result of those other matches, those real must-wins for you, is thrown a little bit into jeopardy. Look, it's still doable, don't get me wrong, but you wanted something more solid than this to carry into those later games that they still have to play. But for now, it's the 3-0, and they do hold on to 4th place.
Most importantly as well, that was we kind of said at the top of the night, if there was going to be an upset, this could have been a night of upsets, but Flashforce and Blank, both the teams favored to take their matches, do in fact take those matches. Let's get into the replay now. We're going to the second stage of Horizon Lunar Colony.
And this was just Libalent consistently getting held up. In fact, I believe this is where Eat You Up got that play of the game, if I'm not mistaken. And it was actually off to a decent start from Libalent, but they just didn't convert any further kills. The mech placement from Huwu was just solid. Jasper wasn't able to get back in the mech. Ryan had been pressured and had to recall, and that put him right into where Huwu's mech was self-destructing. And I mean, look, you don't want to say it was like Hubu saving the team or anything, because actually the positioning was already good in spite of that. Libalent hadn't really converted the extra kills quick enough, but it made it one-sided, it made it a shutout, and it meant they didn't have to commit more ultimates, which helped them a lot in future fights.
A lot of those early fights for Libalent Supreme, and I guess including that one, was Libalent Supreme kind of just getting caught up at the entrances, never really pushing out. Trill and Hubu both did a great job of just locking up Libalent Supreme. Even that tactical visor quite early on from Pepper, blocked out by Trill, blocked out by Hubu. It's going to the next replay now. A little bit later on, this is going to be on Blank's attack.
Yeah, and this is where I believe they got it over the line themselves, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just off to a slightly better start. It still took a little bit of a while, bit of a false start as it were, because they did lose Gunba, but they started to pack on the pressure around about here. They lose Hubu's mech at a very unfortunate juncture, but he stays alive, and Eat You Up absolutely goes off, right? At this point, Selene has this Transcendence, but he's not really saving the ideal amount of members. They're still converting kills through Blank. They got these crucial ultimates up like the tactical visor. Then Hubu gets back in the mech. The fact that they couldn't even close out on that kill, let alone take out the damage dealers of Blank, just tells you how back-footed Libalent actually were positionally, because that fight only started with one pick in favor of Blank, and that actually lost Gunba.
And still with the RQG sound barrier at the end there, just in case something went wrong, because there is a scenario where you expected Libalent Supreme to get counter trades. Usually, and so far in the series of 3 maps, Libalent Supreme were going toe-to-toe very evenly in many fights. Despite losing members of their own, they were getting members on the other side. That time around, though, not the case. But even then, RQG, the sound barrier, that would have ended up saving some members. So, you know, it's ultimately well played on the Blank side.
You got to be happy enough with that last one there as well to actually secure that 3-0, because like if you wait how important that is, it's picking up, of course, the assault, which you're traditionally a little bit struggling with, right? Who are going to be able to get that player of the game for himself, and very well deserved. I mean, look, the Diva 5K on Hollywood was pretty fantastic, right? You know, it's one of those ones for the record books, one of those ones you put in your portfolio, I suppose, your highlights reel. But beyond that, actually, his play on the Diva was incredibly consistent. The placement of the self-destructs was very good most of the time. When it wasn't, he was generally going even anyway, wasn't really mispositioning, often able to help follow up on kills a lot. This guy has become a real solid pickup for Blank so far this season.
And getting kills outside of self-destructs as well. It's not just in there, getting boop kills, getting a lot of just regular kills with the
getting pilot form kills.
Yeah, some headshots in the pilot form as well, just all around fairly solid performance. And just when you think, okay, maybe the 5K was a bit of a fluke, he shows up on Horizon again just to prove that it wasn't a one-time event. But with that, let's wrap up the evening with AHQ. We started things off, them going against Mega, which was a 3-2 victory for Mega. Then Flash Wolves against Machi was a 3-0. And now finally, Blank with a 3-0 victory against Libalent Supreme, which will now be reflected in the standings.
And in those standings, of course, you do still have Ardian at the tippity top of it, and Flash Wolves now very much secure in that second place. Blank, technically currently third in the standings, though that is because they have slightly fewer losses than Hong Kong Attitude, thanks to playing slightly fewer games than them so far. But of course, there is still that head-to-head against AHQ, and also their own head-to-head against Hong Kong Attitude that is really going to determine who makes it into that top 4, and by extension, who makes it in with the 3rd or the 4th place seed, and then rounding out the rest of the standings. AHQ, with that loss to Mega, actually really need to pick it up if they're going to break back into the top 4, having previously earned their spot with a great win over Flash Wolves. Mega, with their win over AHQ, much more secure, much more safe from relegations. Machi and Libalent, on the other hand, a little bit out of the question now to make it out. They would require some real turnarounds at the 11th hour here, and even then, best case scenario for Machi is to tie with Mega for 6th.
And the real interesting thing here is not only you're playing to make the top 4, but actually you're playing to make 3rd, because you're trying to avoid 4th place if you are a playoffs caliber team, so you don't have to play Ardian in that opening semi-final of the playoffs, because they're looking like they're going to retain that 1st place spot. Flash Wolves do not look like they're budging out of 2nd either, so really the 3rd and 4th is what we're looking at. But before we get there, let's head into the post-match interview now with Hubu.
五虎的选手以及我们的翻译 Alison， 还有我们的赛评阿雷。Please say hi to our fans. OK， 好，其实呢，在下个礼拜，再过1个礼拜呢，就要进行到了季后赛的时间。我们想要反问一下选手，说他们在这个礼拜打完是第3名嘛？面对接下来的赛事，是不是已经准备好了呢？
as you are the third place in the standings, and are you confident in getting into playoffs? Do you prepare something?
We're confident in our placing. Like earlier today, before HQ and Mega played, we're a bit worried because they could have easily come fourth as well. So after their loss and our win, we're confident of getting into the playoffs.
他说他蛮有信心的，然后今天 AHQ 在打 Mega 的时候，他们其实很紧张，但其实今天的比赛造成排名上有一些变动，那他们现在是第3名，他还蛮有信心的。
好，这边是要问说，就是在 Mega 这支队伍里面的 White 选手原本也是玩第1把位，然后在最近转玩输出，然后打得非常不错。不知道Hu对于同样是第1把位的Hu有什么想法？
White from Mega played Diva previously, but he swapped his role to Widowmaker and did very well recently. What do you think about this?
I think White's a really good player. I think he was a true DPS player, but he was stuck on Diva for a couple of weeks, and now that they're branching him off onto different heroes, I think it's really good.
他说他觉得外是一个很好的输出选手，那他其实之前本来就有玩输出，那他觉得之后他相信他也会有很好的表现。
了解。然后这边最后问一个问题，就是今天炸5个的，不知道心情好不好？
Your diva was amazing today. Do you want to share something to us?
I had some really good bombs, but I like to think that my overall diva play, I blocked a lot of damage, so I like to think that was the highlight of my play today.
他今天炸5个，其实大家觉得很厉害，但他觉得他今天其实为队友弹了很多伤害，那他觉得这个是他觉得今天他自己最印象深刻的部分，对。
好，谢谢。
谢谢呜呼接受我们的赛后访问，也谢谢 Alison 以及阿雷，谢谢。我们
That
精彩的比赛
is
分
Haru.
享
A couple of thoughts there. Really interesting things on that team as they are now suddenly in that 3rd place spot. Really, it's looking good now. It's looking a lot better for Blank Esports heading into playoffs. They can maintain 3rd. Then not only do they dodge Ardent in the opening match, but actually they get their revenge match against Flash Wolves as well, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and well, thing is though, it's actually not over just yet for them. Look, this has been a bit of a boon for them today, as it were, but not an expected one because it was that upset from Mega against AHQ. Upset is a bit of a misnomer there because, of course, it was just a good match by Mega and one that they always had the ability to win. In reality, AHQ maybe slept on that one a little bit, but it happened and it did affect Blank's position, like you said. Technically 3rd place, though realistically that is 4th because, of course, Hong Kong Attitude do just have that extra loss from that extra game played, but still plenty more matches to come up for both of those teams, indeed all of these teams, and sort of feels like, once again, all the hardest ones are coming up in that final weekend of the 2nd round robin.
Exactly, and next weekend we will be commencing the final week of the regular season play and then playoffs immediately after that in the following week. So without further ado, we have a lot to look forward to when we get back onto Friday. But for tonight, it's all over. And the teams, it's getting quite close. So next week, we'll find out exactly how everyone falls. I've been Kevin Everett Walker, joined with me this weekend, Matt Pixie Carroll. And on Friday, OPC Season 2 continues.